Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. Just do it! Just do it! Just take your dreams and make them happen. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Do it!
Hey Wendy, yeah, I'm going to be home late today. Something really important came up. Hey everybody, welcome out to another rapid fire roundup here in the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 games I've played recently, giving short reviews on them, and then of course, as always, we're going to be splitting these up and posting them as individual videos over on the Dice Tower Encore channel. So if you haven't subscribed over there, go make sure to do that, because you might be able to find some quick reviews for games that you're looking at online, or you're at a game store saying, I wonder if the Dice Tower's covered this. We very well might have over on the Encore channel, as some of the reviews I'm doing here are going to be the only time that these games get coverage on the Dice Tower, just for scheduling and busyness, but figure you'd like to see them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first game I'm covering is Star Wars Unlimited. Now, I really enjoy the Star Wars IP or intellectual property, but I don't tend to love collectible card games because of both the collectability and then also because of just the aggressive head-to-head nature that a lot of them tend to follow. And this one indeed does that, but I find this one charming and fun. I think the biggest difference for me is the fact that you take turns at one action at a time passing back and forth. So I'm not just sitting there watching all of my plans fall apart as an opponent who knows the game better than me is able to play this, which combos this, which activates these things. No, you kind of do one thing at a time. You play out a card, and then the other person responds. So I like that tempo. I like that pacing that's found in this game. And it makes it so that I, as a more casual gamer for these types of CCGs or TCGs, I can just play, and I can have fun. I can inhibit that Star Wars world for a while and play some fun cards. I like the resource system where, as you draw 2 cards at the start of the round, you can assign one of them to be a resource that you need to then exhaust to pay for the better cards as the rounds go on. So it has that build-up, it has the good theme, and I find that turn-based action, one turn at a time-based system, really speaks more to my taste. I'm giving this one a 7.5, which I don't tend to rate games this high and give recommendations for this type of game. If you're a Euro gamer like me, I think that even though this is confrontational, there's enough little aspects, like you have just the ships on one side in one lane, and then you have just the ground units in another lane, and there's something about that just works well for my brain, and I find fun, and I can play casually, so a 7.5 to Star Wars Unlimited. As I've said before, I don't tend to like collectible card game, confrontation-type card-driven games all that often, and so this next one here, Brass Empire, is a deck-building game from Rock Manor Games, which has the feel of a trading card game or collectible card game, but it's in the form of a deck-building game. You start with a basic deck, you play through them 5 cards at a time, and you can buy better cards, shuffle them into the mix, and I find that I didn't have any fun with this one because it actually feels a little bit like Lorcana, like ahead of the time of how Lorcana worked, whereas you play units out in front of you, you can exhaust them on your turn, either to attack other players and they do immediate damage back, or you can exhaust them if your refinery building is face up to just refine points in the game. And then when the point pile runs out, whoever has the most points wins. I wish I liked this game more. I like deck building games, but just the slow kind of crawl nature of this one, the very wild lineup in the middle, and then the tons of effects that I did not particularly enjoy. I did not like how many cards there were that just kind of blew up things that you were working on. And yes, that's how these types of card games work, Chris. I understand that. And I understand that even I just spoke highly of Star Wars Unlimited, which has that to a degree, but I find that this one is much too blunt in its approach. And I just didn't like the card effects. I just didn't enjoy the churn of going through this. And unfortunately, it just didn't speak at all to me. So I'm giving this one a 4 for Brass Empire, a reprint of an older deck building game that they're bringing back. Not for me. Spark Riders 3000 is a bit of an overproduced cooperative game as you're flying your starship through the skies trying to complete different missions, fending off attacking pirate ships and stuff from your sides and your flanks. And I like what this one is doing a lot. It's very charming, it's a bit cartoony and goofish when you look at it, and I think that works well as a strength because the game is kind of silly and goofish. It's a bit cartoony, it's a bit over the top, and yet there's some really good cooperation that happens as you're running from room to room, trying to be in the right spot, not only to take the action there, but also to be at the right spot so that if enemy ships advance towards the side of your ship, you can just kind of bop, 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 take some pot shots at them as they're approaching. I think that the missions and the little stuff that comes up through the app is very fun because you have little crossroads type story moments. This game feels inspired by some of the things like Forgotten Waters and the other recent ones from Plaid Hat Games, but it also feels fresh and it feels different on its own. Nice cooperation as well as you're running through rooms, dropping off your assisting tokens so that you can make certain rooms better for other players when they go and activate those spaces. I like what this is doing. I give Spark Riders 3000 an 8 out of 10. I think it's just super charming, and while this isn't the type of thing I always want to sit down and play, if I'm going to play a cooperative game that gives me some nice laughs, that's a win for me. So an 8 out of 10. Donuts by Bruno Cathala. This is an abstract game with a wonderful, fantastic theme. And I think that even though it's a little bit, silly kind of a theme, donuts flipping over between vanilla and chocolate or whatever, I think it works well for the game because the game also, for me, doesn't feel too serious. It's not too thinky of an abstract game. And while I know that I recognize that I'm picky with abstracts, there's some that I really enjoy, and this one's up there for me. The idea of being able to flip over the pieces between your color side and your opponent's color side, and you're trying to line up 5 in a row. Seen it, it's been done before, it's a very common trope in abstract games, but the twist on this one being that it's not like Othello or Reversi, whereas you surround something with your color pieces that they flip over. Instead, you need to insert. The game actually came out originally just titled Insert as a more pure abstract without the excellent donut theming. But if you put your chocolate side in between 2 vanillas, then the 2 vanillas flip over, and that even works with a chain of your chocolates surrounded by 2 vanillas. And so surrounding is actually very bad in this one, and it's a fun, clever twist where you now have to look out for the traps that you're accidentally setting yourself up to be flipped over as you play. There's also a neat little grid system where you play your donut shows either diagonal, vertical, or horizontal, and that's where your opponent has to play in that lane. This is a charming abstract game that I like a lot. I'm giving an 8 out of 10 because this is the type of one I could see pulling out regularly. It's on Board Game Arena. I've played it several times there. One I could play with my kid, one I could play with other grown-ups, and while it's silly, it doesn't feel immature. I like donuts a lot, an 8 out of 10. Senjutsu is another head-to-head combat style game, and I'm covering many of these in this particular rapid fire roundup, but Senjutsu is the worst of them. This is a game that has an excellent production, really cool Japanese theme, as you are different samurai or ronin fighting each other in this hex-based arena. But there's so many blunders. There's so many blunders in this. The primary and key offender is the rulebook. The rulebook is needlessly complicated and difficult. It was very hard to parse through it and understand everything that I needed to just kind of get playing. And the headers, the way that things were organized, it was not a good rule book. I was hoping that as I played it, it would supersede that, and unfortunately the play of it didn't inspire me either. This is a game where there's a hex grid and you move around and there's a lot of striking and just kind of missing each other because you're revealing things simultaneously, but the simultaneous reveal never felt like I was making that big of a difference. I never outthought my opponent. I just kind of got lucky, or like in Kung Pao Enter the Fist or whatever the movie was called. I had two choices, either directly run right into this attack or dodge. I ran right into the attack. And that's how the whole game felt to me. Anytime I hit the other person, I was like, oh, cool! I'm glad you walked into that one. Woo! Or I'm glad I guess I went quicker than you, even though it might not have happened that way. It's too bad because the theming, the production, I said, looks amazing. It looks super good. Rulebook terrible. I didn't enjoy the combat itself. There's 5 stances that you can switch between to make different effects on your cards work. And I didn't find that switching through the stances felt strategic on how to do it, or even how to take advantage of when you were in a different stance. There was a lot that unfortunately this missed for me. The production of the tiles. There's 2 tiles you can connect a bridge to a battle arena, and they don't fit together like the rulebook shows. This is a 3 out of 10. I really, really did not enjoy Senjutsu, and I can't recommend it. Whale to Look is a game from Oink Games. Comes in a small little box, as all Oink games do. And this one is very charming. It has this little grid that you're putting out there, and you are placing your boats into different areas to try to observe and look around the ocean, and you're trying to find either a lot of fish, which will attract one of the whales, or the area that has the least fish surrounding it, which will attract the other type of whale. There's a whale and there's an orca, and so you want to be able to catch or take people on a sightseeing tour of either one of them. This is a very small game, and it reminds me of 2 other great deduction games, which is Spectral, which I enjoyed a lot, and Museum Suspects. The way that the deduction in this one works is a bit more intuitive of a deduction, kind of based on how the other players are moving their ships around, because you can't observe everything. But you might look at enough cards to have a really good feeling. This is probably the area with the most fish, but you might be surprised. So I like this one. It's a little bit more goofy, but it is a small game that fits its small package really well, has a lot of charm, and this is the first game that I am ever a Dice Tower promo character in the game. I sit in a boat. I don't actually do anything, but I'm in a boat. So, I mean, all that being said, I like this style of deduction. I like this style of semi-bluffing the other players based on the information I'm trying to show them by moving my ship in a certain way, and people commit to that area, and I'm like, woo, I'm moving out. Just little things like that are fun in this one. I'm giving Whale to Look a 7.5. Game that fits its package really well. A lot of charm. I enjoy it. Let's go to Japan. That's the way that this game title is written. Using Victor Borga's phonetic alphabet, it's actually, let's go to Japan. I don't know why that exclamation point is right there after go. It's like Pokemon Go. To the polls. Anyway, this is a game about card drafting, and you are playing these cards out, creating a travel itinerary for your 6 days in your trip to Japan, traveling between Tokyo and Kyoto and doing all the cool things there. This is a game where the theme helps tremendously, and I do feel like the game was built around the theme first. It's not just a good theme, but it was clearly made with that idea in mind of travel. And maybe not the Japan part, but also feels very well researched, and I like it a lot. It is a card drafting game where I shockingly don't care about the cards that I'm passing along, because I can't really focus on what the other players are doing, and so that's probably its biggest weakness for me. I'm taking the best card for myself, but I never really feel that opportunity cost or that threat of passing a card on to someone else. Probably I just don't even want that card. Maybe it's the perfect card for them. I can't really tell. I'm not really looking at the itineraries that closely, the array of cards building up. So I've never once made a decision in this game based on the other players at the table, and many people dislike that about this game. I'm okay with it because this is a card drafting game that I'm looking at as a multiplayer solitaire experience, and that's not a bad word in my opinion. Multiplayer solitaire doesn't bother me. It just does surprise me how much I feel that in this game, even though there's these shared hands kind of going around the table. The way the card draft works is good, and so I'm happy with it, and I like the idea of traveling on the train between Tokyo and Kyoto. Do you take the best card that match the right symbols at the right points, that match scoring perfectly? Oh, but I'm going to have to do a lot of train travel back and forth. That's good if I can get the train tokens. That's bad if I do not have enough time to get the train tokens I need. So I love the theme. A lot carries this one through, and even though it's quite solitary, I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10 because I find it to be that fun and enjoyable. The deluxe production is over the top and fantastic, but even retail, it's all going to be good. I think this is a solid game, but I do hold it shy of that excellence because of how I'm just doing my own thing during the whole play. That being said, an 8 out of 10 for Let's Go to Japan. Life in Reterra is a tile-laying game wherein you have a little display of tiles, you add one to your terrain, and there's not too much going on in the game. This is from Hasbro, and they're doing a good job of making the production on this really solid with the different trays and the variability and the option to kind of put in which type of buildings you want to be able to make or not. I just didn't find this one to be that fun. I found that the lineup of tiles was very restrictive, and of course you have your hand of tiles, but if you just never see in that lineup the things that will allow your hand of tiles to work well with them, you just kind of feel like you're poking around for the most part. So I thought that the tile lineup didn't speak to my tastes as a gamer. I know that this is going for a more casual crowd and a little bit more hobbyier part of the casual crowd, and I think it does fine at that, but honestly, I didn't love the tile open drafting and putting things next to each other. It felt a little bit boring to try to get gears next to each other. Woo! I got 3 gears next to each other. I can finally build this terrain thing. I can finally build this building over on my terrain. I found it to be very simple, and that's fine. I didn't like the take that. The other people in the main review, have already spoken very much to the take that. Felt strange and out of place and unfun. But I wish that there was something more exciting. I wish that those buildings, as they came out, felt more like great achievements instead they felt like, well, that's 4 points, and like some little thing that it gets to do. So Life in Reterra, not for me. It's a 6 out of 10. I could play it again easily. It's an inoffensive game, but it didn't really do anything for me. 6 out of 10. Leviathan Wilds. This is a boss battler that made my top 10 boss battlers of all time, so you can expect that I enjoy this game. I like this genre of game, and this one does it in such a cool way. It's always compared to the Shadow of Colossus, the video game, where you are climbing up this gigantic boss and you have to destroy certain corrupted spots on it. I like those systems a lot. It reminds me of, honestly, a Super Nintendo-style platformer like Super Star Wars, when you try to take down the Jawa Sandcrawler, which definitely doesn't happen in the movies. Luke isn't like shooting up Jawas like wild, throwing incendiary bombs, taking out the whole machine. They took some real liberties with that video game. That being said, that's what it feels like, a platformer where you're trying to destroy the platform level, or Shadow of Colossus where the boss is the platform. And I think that this game pulls it off so well. It has a very simple character creation. Pick a role and pick a type, right? Pick a character and pick a job class. Mix that deck together, and you're going to go through it pretty rapidly. And that itself is a resource that you're managing as well. Your health, your corruption, taking out the corrupted crystals and the regular crystals, climbing, letting yourself fall at the right types of times. There's a good amount of teamwork as you can play your event cards on other players' turns. And so cool moments just become emergent. Emergent story and excitement come from the systems in this game. I'm trying to coin this term, I guess. It's mechanothematical, right? It's thematic through the mechanisms, not thematic because it reads big walls of text at you. There's very little text. You can play through all of these bosses as a campaign or just play through whatever one you want. You flip open the book, and the game is pretty much set up. This nails so many things correctly. It just does everything right. I'm giving Leviathan Wilds an 8.5. I have so much fun swinging around fighting this monster. One of the players I'm playing with plays a card that says, ooh, you're within 3 spaces of me. Swing around to anywhere within 3 spaces of me. I land on a big crystal. I take a big attack, and I take down the last spot that we need to rescue these Leviathans. What a cool game. 8.5. The last game for this particular video, Faraway from Pandasaurus Games, is such a cool, small card game where you are playing cards out into a line of 8 cards total. And that's it. You play them out in one order, you flip them all over, and then you reveal the last one, score it, reveal the second to last one, score it with anything you get from the last card as well. You're just scoring them in backwards order, and so everything that you've played last will help you score for conditions on the earlier cards. Great, simple system. One of those games where you can teach it by showing, hey, this is what 8 cards look like. You put them out, you do this stuff, and that's how you score them. And so it plays very quickly. And yet it's very rewarding. I talked about earlier how in Life in Reterra, that open draft of cards felt unexciting and didn't have like a lot of weight to it. In this game, there is a lot of weight to it. While yes, you're playing the card from hand, but also you want to refill your hand from this open lineup of cards, and so you're trying to increase numbers to get better extra cards into your array, but also you want to play smaller numbers so you get to replace your card faster before other people, and there's a lot of hefty decisions in such a small time frame. And this is by no means a heavy game. I'm not saying that it punches above its weight class. It is a small box card game. And I think that it punches just a little bit into the next weight class, not like far above it. I think that this is a cool game, quirky art, good presentation, all that type of stuff. This is one if you like small card games, if you agree with a lot of my tastes on weird things like Mamma Mia and vegetable stock, this is a cool game. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. One of those that I think you could always have in your arsenal. You could always fit it in at a convention, or if someone's like, maybe I feel like playing like one more game before I go home tonight. Boom, you can pull this out, play it twice in that time. But just have this game on hand. It's very good, an 8 out of 10 for Faraway. Folks, that has been another Rapid Fire Roundup from me, your host, Chris Yee. Hope that you all have a fantastic day.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, if you would love to game with us at one of our conventions, check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.